It's Justin Dawson. It's episode 130 of the All Things TechIE Podcast. And me questioning where, oh where, did October disappear to?
Here's the show that loves to talk about gadgets and gizmos, from A-Logic to Yamaha, cameras to control panels. You get what I mean. We love talking all things techie. In fact, that's the name of the show. And here is your host, Justin Dawson.
Yes, indeed. Online at www.allthingstech.ie, where you can find all previous episodes of the All Things TechIE Podcast. We are on all your social media channels on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram. Sir Justin Dawson is where you will find me, and audio and video podcasts as well. All that and 129 previous episodes of the All Things TechIE Podcast is available at www.allthingstech.ie. How's everyone doing? It's been such a busy month between the Tech Ireland event that happened in Tech Connect event that happened in the RDS there a couple of weeks back. Then just been arranging different bits and pieces for AV Groupie, and you will find things at avgroup.ie. And of course, literally next week, I travel over to London. This time next week, I'll have my bag packed because just flying in for just 2 days, Friday morning, flying into London City, and then going to the AV Awards, which I haven't been to since 2019, and really looking forward to seeing and networking with all the people that I know over in England and seeing who wins awards. I'm not up for any awards, I'm just literally attending the night, and thanks to the AV user group for bringing me out there for the night, and I have my tux ready. So with that in mind, this is the 27th year of the AV Awards. And what better to catch up with the editor-in-chief of AV Magazine, the host of the AV Awards, Clive Coudwell, and talk to him about his time in the AV industry. A person that I've wanted to have under the spotlight for quite some time now, and he is too humble of a character to want to come on podcasts. And then I was looking at his LinkedIn profile and I said to myself, my God, there's so many areas that I want to delve into. And he's just admitted off mic that Clive Coudwell from AV Magazine, that and editor of AV Magazine, that he's a broadcast guy that used to love audio, and now everyone wants video, and he doesn't like being on video. And I to that I say, Clive, you've worked for Sky, you've worked for ITV, you've worked for BBC. How do you not like cameras? and you're working in AV. How do you not like being in front of a camera?
I didn't say I didn't like cameras. It's just that voice is very audio is a very intimate medium. Yes. And it's something I think I hold most dear. Really. The BBC is an audio, a sound organisation. It's not televisual medium, really. That's how it all started. And in fact, you can tell how, when I talk and everything else, you're talking to an individual person. You're concentrating just on the audio, looking at AV. If everything else fails, it's the audio element that's the most powerful. When you see your body some years after you've done television, that was in my 20s and 30s. I mean, mainly, although I did a lot of stuff after it. The camera never lies. And there are so many other things. I look like an exploded mattress. I mean, when we did our stuff in the studio recently with David Berman, who sadly our videographer has now left, but he's coming back doing other stuff. My God, it sounded as though they just take me out of a care home and put me in a seat. And these sort of really hard notes.
So hard on yourself.
Unbelievably. Well, you're looking like an exploding mattress and you're sitting there in a seat, not the most flattering angle in front of a camera. You can't help but say, oh dear, that's not a good look.
And is this one of the reasons that, like, when Clive is this humble on himself and feels that, like, he shouldn't be in front of a camera, is this why they invented Clive Bear?
I don't know. Clive Bear,
the
funnily enough,
caring character of Clive Bear. It's like Paddington Bear.
Well, I don't know. It's probably the same size for one thing. Certainly when we had it. as the Midwich Tech Expo certainly was. But I don't know, we've got some early photographs taken of me 50 years ago when I was a student.
Right.
And we went on a canal holiday, and there was this little bear in the bunch of all these women, and there was me sort of semi-naked torso, clasping a bear. So, oh, that's a nice little thing, isn't it? And I said, well, it's amazing what you say. How on earth could we relate that to an AV Expo? Anyway, one thing led to another. And we were in Infocom a couple of years ago trying this bear thing. Sort of, take your picture of the bear. When you leave Infocom, post us images of where this bear is, the furthest away from America, and we'll give you a prize and send you a bear. My God, this thing went viral. And it went nuts. I suddenly became a sex single with South Korean and Chinese women. And I was going up the stairs.
There's nothing wrong with that, Clive.
Oh, well, I don't know. It's a bizarre thing. I thought, they sort of sit down at the bottom of escalators and sort of wave, And I sort of looked down. I looked at my videographer. What's going on? He said, you've gone viral. When you coming flying back, 3 a.m., gone for a quick wee, coming out the toilet on the plane, and then this woman said, it's him. I said, for God's sake, woman, it's 3 a.m., just had a wee, go away. It's a bizarre experience. It's just gone nuts, especially in schools where we've done more coverage recently, and it's really sort of taken off, and it adds that personal element to what AV is associated with, and it's just helped us reach different generations and a wider variety of people.
Now, I'm going to go right back and delve right into Lydia. This is your live type of moment, Clive. I apologise. But one of the things that's on your LinkedIn profile, which I have to address, is you have a Guinness World Record for badminton. Tell us more.
Endurance. When I was at school, I was a keen. Well, we were a very, very sporty school. Rugby, football, the usual bit. And I started picking up. I'd started playing tennis. Then we started playing badminton. Right. And I happened to be rather good at it. So we won lots of championships. You play for school or town, county, and then nationally. And I played for town level. And it's quite competitive. Anyway, I had this idea of trying to raise money for charity. I said, right. I'm looking at these silly records in the Guinness Book of Records. So if we raise charity over a week by carrying on playing badminton non-stop, we can create a world endurance record, raise some money at the time. And so that's what we did. And it went on, I think, 10 or 11 days, and we got the world record for spending the longest time in shifts playing badminton. It was very competitive badminton as well, so we took it very seriously, actually. And I think we raised rather a lot of money through the local charities. So it's a great cause.
And sorry to address the year that happened, 1974. Has anyone ever tried to challenge that Guinness record, or do you still hold it?
Oh no, good Lord, no! I think it was broken a year later, actually, by another school. I mean, when you're super fit as a schoolboy, and we were doing cross country, lots of sports and everything else, and you're young enough to be able to endure anything like that. And we had a large audience who came and supported us even during the night,
right?
Which was great. The local BBC station turned up, did a session, so we were pretty famous for a short while. Then we got taken out for lunch by the mayor of Blackpool. This is a school just outside Blackpool. So I come from the northwest of England, and he said, well, "It's great, put us on the map." Apart from the damn tower, we've got something else to talk about. So. It went on from there, and I thought we didn't do any more charity things. We should have done, I suppose, but God, it pulled the girlies in. We had a little fan club going on and everything else, and we were, you didn't see many girls. It was an all-boys school,
of course.
So that was the other thing, because when you went to see them, you got invited for tea. In those days, you were invited for tea because you girls were something that stood at bus stops on the other side of the road. You looked across the road at, and would you believe we were chaperoned?
Oh, nice.
Yes, delightful, isn't it? We're sort of, discovering the fairer sex much later in your teens. So that canal holiday where we had the bear and everything else was half a dozen of each other. It was a 74 feet long canal boat.
Wow.
And we all behaved very nicely. And it was a jolly, lovely time we had. There was no relationship or anything like that. It was all, life was simple, and we had a very nice time. It also amalgamated into that lovely, relatively carefree era when I think back. A lovely time.
Well, the carefree era as well, Clive. It's like you also are. I'm going to say fluent French because you worked for the European Commission as well at one
I
point.
did, yes. It was a remarkable thing. I've had it's strange the opportunities that have come my way that haven't been not planned at all, really. And I took a degree I went to Oxford Poly and took a degree in English and French literature, and one thing went to another. And I spent time in France teaching as assistant d'anglais, and it was in Poitiers, central France. It was a really enjoyable time, actually, really good. And it went on to, I started writing about science and technology. And this opening arrived for writers for the European Union. And boy, was that interesting. Across 15 of the most innovative, up-to-date technology areas in the European research area. Fascinating stuff. Right across, funnily enough, AV, intelligent packaging, you name the incredible chipsets for computers then unknown, and so on. And they were just great people. And the European Union, it was the great thing about the EU, everything worked really well. It only gets a bit nasty when politics is involved and each country in the union starts to protect its own interests. But in areas like research, we were leading the world, leading America, certainly. It's so fascinating. I was very lucky to be part of it.
So that led you on to journalism in a sense, and then writing for the Times magazine or Times newspaper
Well,
rather.
I already was a journalist. I started off in very briefly local newspapers and then moved on to BBC local radio and spent a short time in that. And then came down to London from the north into working on trade publications, which a lot of graduates did then, gave you interest. And that led to Fleet Street. And then that took me later into editing magazines and then going into television properly for the Computer Channel, which was something owned by British Satellite Broadcasting at the time. And of course, by then I had quite a few hours under my belt and all live television. And that was quite a demanding thing. I was both the editor and the anchorman for the channel. And it was, I was trained by, Tomorrow's World, like Michael Rodd, Richard Kershaw, formerly of Nationwide, all the big people you'd seen growing up on the telly were there then doing training, and it was just extraordinarily great environment to be part of and quite stimulating, actually.
It's now over like 2010, so now over 15 years ago that you became the editor in chief for AV Magazine. So
Well,
yeah,
that was after working as a Formula One writer and then working in, technology went quite a long way in there. And then I became a medical writer. And at the end of all that, a friend of mine was editing AV Magazine at the time. It was part of a company called Haymarket. And they just sold it to the company we're now working for, Metropolis or EMAP or whichever way. I can't remember what we're supposed to call it really these days. But anyway, and she said, I don't want to work in Croydon. But, we're looking to change editors anyway. Do you fancy it? I said, okay, give it a go. And the first time I'd come across the magazine and the area was in the early 80s as part of what was then office equipment.
right.
And
Okay.
audiovisual then was a sort of Reg in his brown coat bringing in a metal projector. He had to bang now and again when it didn't work.
hmm
And so over the years, I'd become more familiar with the mag thanks to a colleague of mine, Peter Lloyd, who interviewed us when we were doing business television. And one thing went to another. I thought they'd just moved into Croydon. And I thought, well, fair enough, it's down the road from where I am in Tunbridge Wells.
hmm
And I'll give it a go. It's quite interesting. People were lovely. The company was a friendly company. And actually, I've been there ever since. So here we are now, 15 years later. No planning again whatsoever, just taking on the industry became quite innovative.
hmm
Lots of new things happened. Technology came to the fore a lot more. The old industrial filmmaking units that were dominating the AV world then were around, but not as dominant as they were. And things were changing very rapidly. Social media came to the fore, and we
Of
had
course.
to move fast as a magazine.
Well, that's 15 years ago, but don't forget, like, with between the AV Awards and also trade shows like ISE, they had been going on for quite some time. Were you attending these type of trade shows at the point, or?
Not, I guess. The magazines was the first one into the market, from 1972 onwards. People
Yeah.
forget that. And the trade show, AV Awards itself is 25 years old.
hmm
And that was more or less managed by the former editor. He was there for 30 years.
Right.
So I came into that. So I used all my previous skills, as front of house guy, the visual bloke, But I became a group editor of 2 magazines, not just AV Magazine, but Electronics Weekly, whom I'd written for in the early 80s. And so it
Right.
was all quite familiar. The whole thing wrapped quite nicely into quite a complementary mix of both content and skills. When I do what I do on AV Magazine, for example, it's usually nearly 45 years of work doing other stuff that's used those skills in the medium. So I don't come to it fresh. I brought all that stuff with me into what now is a really quite lively medium, despite all the ups and downs we've had over the past year or two.
Well, with that in mind, like what a range of between IT, medical, you're talking about sports way back when you used to play badminton. What vertical do you really enjoy writing on for AV Magazine? Like, what's your favorite area and subjects?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, it's got to be between medicine and Formula One, probably. I
Hmm.
mean, Formula One, I nearly walked away from when that awful thing happened to Hamilton and that final race a couple of years ago when he was on line to really win it, and he was taken away from it. I was so disgusted by the way it had been handled, and disappointed the way my former colleagues had reported it, that I thought, well, that's it. It's lost its interest and panache. I was still popping in and out, but the medical writing was quite interesting. My colleague Clive from the F2 is a medical writer, the chap we all call Pink Clive.
Right.
He was the guy that broke the story, and he was in Wuhan with COVID and everything else and all the big things. And when I went back to it, we had a skill called evidence-based reporting,
Hmm.
which was a very good. You couldn't state anything, having gone through peer review research about all the different things going on without reporting the evidence that backed up what you were saying. It's a very good skill to have. And
Hmm.
I'm always following it now. I haven't left it alone. And it's fascinating. It's quite addictive once you get into it. But for sheer glamour, clearly it's Formula One, the people I met, and the way I could do things relatively unpestered. I had quite
Yeah.
a free rein to do all kinds of things, which led to me writing a book. Now I've written I'd edited a number of medical books over the years, so I've been involved in book writing for a while. But it was that one that cracked the ice, if you like, because not many people get to write a Formula One book. I mean, a handful, and that was quite interesting. Very difficult
Now,
people to deal
I have
with.
to ask: have you been inside, or have you been a passenger in a
I
Formula One
have
car?
I have driven a Formula One car in the old days when they had gears, physical manual gears, and it was a frightening experience. It happened before I passed my test, because I didn't pass my driving test until I was 30
Are we
odd.
supposed to admit that on a podcast
Oh,
that you
you
have?
can do. The young drivers have racing licenses, but it doesn't mean
Right.
to say they've got a driving license. And they're
Yeah.
getting younger and younger. And it's quite often they're seeing their driving tests as well. It's happened twice actually.
Wow.
And they let journalists around the track in a quite controlled environment. But my God, they wouldn't do that now. And then I had a ride in one some years later when I was a bit more portly. And of course, it's jolly difficult to get into it. You just about fit your left buttock in.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's all streamlined and everything else. So and the G forces on the body are
Right.
so enormous now. There's absolutely no way you'd stay conscious in a modern F1 car going. They're so super fit. So yes and no. I mean, I'm not a simulator guy either, so I haven't tried that. But no thanks. I mean, it's for the young and fit driving a Formula One car these days.
Well, I say, like, fascinating that you're involved in such and interest in such a sport, and then the technology that goes with that
I was very
between,
lucky.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it does really overlap a lot.
But we'd never forget the main important thing, which sometimes journalists do cross the line. They are not experts. They are interviewing people who are.
Yes, of
And
course.
I've never, ever crossed that line. I didn't pretend, oh, well, I've done this, done that, I can do this. I don't. You live a very fragile existence when you do that. And you can be scuppered very quickly with someone finding you out. So I've always been very, very honest about it. I'm not an expert in AV, I'm not an expert in this, that, and the other. You become knowledgeable through the process of interviewing people,
Yeah,
but you're always
it's
learning.
about asking the questions. Yeah, like
I think so.
from someone with a media background as well, Clive. It's like that. Like, we might understand to an extent the audiovisual end of things and the equipment that goes into it, but like, it is a minefield that you can fall down when you talk about AES and Audio Engineering Society and them minutely
standards,
detailing and their standards. It's like, no, I can't actually hear that decibel that you're talking about there.
Well, we've tried to keep it simple. We're
Yes,
writing for end user buyers, but we're also informing the industry what's going on. We support the industry. That's an
of
important
course.
thing to say. So
Yes.
I have two hats on, or we all do. Things that have to be said, we make sure are said.
Hmm.
We're not on anybody's side, but we are there to provide a common environment for people who need to know and need our support and need to be informed sensibly. I'm
Yes.
not an encyclopedia on audiovisual, nor should we be, but we highlight the things that need to be made to be seen important for those who are buying the technology, using it, and selling it. If
Absolutely.
the industry starts to get to know what people like you want, what your business problems are, what your challenges are, certainly in higher education, goodness me, it's become
Oh
so
God.
complex.
Well, like I've said it several times before on podcast, Clive, and I still say it. Like, it's only after COVID that people really recognize the higher ed vertical, because we are doing the mini broadcasts, whether it be lecture capture, whether it be live streams that happened after COVID or during COVID, because people still need to be educated. All of a sudden that vertical got a real importance amongst all the verticals. Like I came from a private sector background of doing audiovisual, and I remember going to trade shows like ISE, and some of the trade show booths, like, if they heard that you were from higher education, they didn't want to have the conversation with you, and now they do. And with the likes of LTSMG, SCOMS, HETMA, and ETC, and all the other higher ed associations, finally the the vendors are actually listening to those working in higher education.
Well, quite rightly. So I nothing but admire the higher education. I have for years. The way you share information, are very open of what you do and what your challenges are, and you have budgets now. I don't know how long they'll last, mind you. That make people
Do we
in the
have a budget?
industry. Well, it must be getting pretty tight in HE.
Yes.
I would have thought budgets that really make the industry sit up and listen, think, well, this is business we should be involved with. But from our point of view, I've always absolutely sat back with people who are facing such enormous challenges within their own working environment, are expected to be up to date with their own skill sets and also be able to face challenges that the corporate world is facing that they don't tend to talk openly about. It's a shame they don't. It's got better,
Hmm.
but really, for how much you're paid and
Yeah.
what you have to achieve and the pressures you're under, it's a magnificent job in my view.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I have to ask you, like, on a sort of, again, I've asked other guests on the show, and I think Mike Blackman always and Dave Labuscus always gave me the best answer of this. It's like, this is like trying to choose your favorite kid. What's your favorite trade show to go to?
Well, after 35 years, I've had enough of trade shows, quite frankly. So there isn't one.
I don't go.
It's clear that people. Well, the trade shows. My God, where do you start? Um, the whole process of travelling to trade shows is there are certain things I think trade shows should be doing differently,
Mhm.
which is creating meeting spaces and areas around product sales that really themselves should be more experience based. So showing what you can do with the technology rather than just the technology itself. We know about the technology. What I'm looking for at a trade show is finding out what people's challenges and perceptions are about what's happening around us. That it's the people
Very true.
element of trade shows the most
Yes.
important. But there is just they should have certainly our eyes. See, I'd love if they had areas where people could meet and have their own interview and quiet areas rather than doing it on a stand. I think the whole concept of the trade show needs to change a bit to be more dynamic. I mean, thank goodness that ISC in Barcelona. It's great for Mike because you've got much bigger space. Amsterdam was becoming, too overcrowded.
And I have to say, on that note, I missed you at IBC. It was my first time of going back to the Rye since
Oh,
2018, and it is still the maze that it was in 2018.
is it
How
really?
how long how many times did I get lost? Numerous times.
Well, IBC used to be my trade show, of course, with
Oh,
mini
of course.
broadcast, and it was an amazing place to be because, of course, people were very different qualifications, different perception of professionals' responsibility. It was quite a hierarchical thing,
Mhm.
very respectful. Well, you're not in the profession unless you've got this, and this qualification. It was a very different environment to operate in, which it's been diluted a bit more recently because it's started to overlap or it's been seen to overlap, but they're very different things. I don't know. I'm just tired of trade shows, quite frankly. I think they're good for certain reasons. But for my person, I mean, Mr. Labuscus and Mike, it's in their interest to say trade shows are wonderful because they're organising them. From a journalist going to them, I find the whole thing, it's the people I go for, but I find the whole process of going around trade shows flipping tedious.
Yeah.
The travel is not what it used to be. It's the quality of travel to these places is difficult. I'm a little bit more infirm than I used to be, so making my travelling restricted. It's also fitting into a very super busy schedules these days, a nightmare. I appreciate when people make the effort to see you. You see, I've seen a number of Americans in the UK. It'd been lovely to see them all. But I've cut my travelling right down. I think the travelling is not where I'm at.
You know what, Clive? Like, I think it feels that we've learned lessons during lockdowns and COVID. And now that we're back, it feels that we're going a bit in reverse again
We
from the
are.
lessons that we learned. And
You're so right.
I still believe there's a space for virtual meetings, for virtual show-offs of being able to show off these products, and do small webinars. Like, yes, I think ISE and Infocom and all the large trade shows are brilliant, and for the same reasons that you just mentioned, for the networking. But I find that for the smaller shows like SCOMS, like LTSMG, then I can actually talk to the vendor one-on-one and go, this is my problem, and this is this, and them helping me come out with a solution of what's the best product to put into a university capacity or so forth. And you need those two different levels of trade shows. But I agree, it does take a lot of time, time and preparation, even when you're a journalist, to go over there and plan out who, and then everyone wants a piece of you.
There are so many things that need to be right when you go to trade show. I think looking at Infocom, I prefer Orlando. It's not as glamorous as Vegas.
I loved Orlando,
but I love the convention center. I think it's really one of the best convention centers I've been in. It's functionally more efficient, I find. People there are different to the people who I would go to see in Barcelona or Amsterdam, for example. It's a different thing to me. I mean, half the stuff that's there we already know about. But when I go to the States, I'm talking to business people who wouldn't necessarily go to that show, who are there running their businesses and everything else. I like to get the stories behind what's going on. And since Trump came into power, you had fewer people willing to talk more openly about what they're facing. But I just love that stuff. But in terms of issues, going backwards, the whole thing about hybrid management and kitting, we've had an adequate time to make sure offices are fit to attract new generations of people. Where AV's role has not been exploited as well as it could have. The technology has been changed, but people's environments, our own company's gone from back to 2-3 days of work after we put a lot of effort in, making
exactly.
we're great. We use the office for people-to-people contact, and it works efficiently. It's not there for a bit of a Teams call where you can't hear yourself think because someone's in a booth that isn't acoustically different from you, 3 feet away, and you can't hear yourself think. At home, we get infinitely more done, but we have a fit office. And people don't have that at home. The whole process of managing this, I think, has been done very badly. And I think it's probably down to costs because it's very expensive. But the thing is, the industry is a bit regressive. I think, people haven't had the right standard of advice to be able to tackle the things sensibly and to help their company move forward and attract new generations of people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I feel as well with a university capacity, it's more trying to get the students back onto campus rather than giving them the student experience. I believe should be both a mix of hybrid and should a student want to come onto campus or should they not? They're paying top dollar to do their class. It should be an option of, okay, I have too much on my plate today, or I always go into the layer of going the neurodivergent student who might not feel healthy and fit to go in to campus that day and want to just listen on their own accord to the lecture. Now, I know there is courses that are not suitable and have the physical aspects, like whatever. Medical is a great example that you have to either know how to operate on a patient or not, and that it does have the physical aspect. But when it comes down to lecturers, they should have the ability to listen or watch the lecture when and where they choose.
It's the environment you go into. It's a way of expanding your mind and creating experiences over 2 or 3 years. It's not there just to get a qualification. It's there as part. It's the most important time of your life when your mind's expanding. You're going through a stage of maturity that really lasts with you for the rest of your life. It's learning all kinds of social skills you perhaps wouldn't learn anywhere else. It's not just a learning element, and that's what I felt people have missed, and that needs to be addressed. It's not just a quick way of getting money off people. It's a way of improving the entire life and space around them to be able to make them really good, fit individuals for sound employers who then really deserve to give the best environment they can for them to work in. And that's not happening. Now, companies, it's just jolly expensive, and I can understand why.
Yeah, and so is the accommodation here in Ireland. So, a fine line has to be found. And it's something that we could talk about all day long. But with over 30 years, now you might even say, and the rest, Justin, over 30 years of experience in technology and audiovisual, what's been your favorite and what's been your worst products that you've come across?
Oh, blimey, I don't know. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I've got a degree in literature. I'm a classics student, really.
Right.
And here I am spending most of my time. My wife's terribly disappointed in me. I can't do a damn thing practically.
Hey, meet your brother, Clive. Jen tells me.
Well, there's no excuse. Dad is a fantastic engineer in the Navy who went to very senior levels in his profession.
Right.
And he was amazing and restored classic cars and goodness knows what else. So he's an absolutely wonderful guy. And my son has inherited a gene. He's an extraordinary young man. I know it's just amazing. But products are there. Yes, I said I love good engineering. I'm a great admirer of it, clever engineering. And I'm just as interested meeting the chap who is responsible for the screw inside the box being in the right position that you don't see when the whole thing is made, as I am in the design of something on the outside that looks amazing and really fulfills a function efficiently. So I'm interested in that sort of thing passionately. Things that stand out. There are things that come along like Barco's amazing engineer. When they put in for the AV Awards, it was just slightly too late for 1 year. You see things coming across. Oh, that's interesting. But I feel the industry at the moment is going through a consolidation period. So there have been so many changes. And technology is developing so quick. People are sort of getting a bed in. It's an expensive process. See how the business goes, what it needs. I think what we actually need is not so much the passion about the technology, but the way in which it should be managed and designed within your own environment. That's the breakthrough areas. Look where the consultants are going. Look where now the AV chain in the current issue of coming our way. It's looking at AV services, but also the supply chain and how technology will be sold and supported over the next few years. That's just changing people's thought, I think. And I thought it's been coming for a while to do that sort of piece, and it has to be done. That's where I feel the problem, not in product design.
With all your years of experience, how do you feel on the words of artificial intelligence and AI?
Well,
in
the 90s, I used to write about expert systems as an IT writer. And business intelligence. And AI was really in the middle of all that, but without the fancy LLMs and everything else. And it comes down to the same thing: good data in, good data out.
Exactly.
And how you manage your data, this, that, and the other. To a certain degree, there's this major race between technologies, which is nothing more than an investment exercise to get people well known on social media to develop their things. I think we're going through a bit of a false phase. The real work is going on privately behind the scenes. But you have to be very careful. It's fast moving. You've got to keep your eye on it. Try out as much as you can sensibly. But none of us have any time to do it properly. So you want help. People who've gone through it always make sort of notes and best practice approaches to stuff that teach people without much time to do it. Well, I've made that mistake. Don't you make it? Can I suggest these 4 or 5 things to do that, and then start to specialize between disciplines. For journalism, it's not instead of a professional writing, it's a help for journalists to be able to do and check what they're doing.
It's a tool.
It's working brilliantly in infrastructure. I think the breakthroughs in AV are going to be in infrastructure and automation, definitely.
Now,
the technical side has always been like that.
Do you think it's a bubble? Do you think it's like the .com bubble? Do you think the floor will eventually drop out of it?
Well, it's certainly set the chip market off. Look at Nvidia.
Well, that's it. That's true.
You know, but one of those wafers, was about 15 grand a pop. So someone's making a lot of money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a question of how the whole thing develops. It's easy. It's a 10 times more important element than the internet was, because we don't feel as though we're in control of it.
No, we're not, and that's a scary thing.
Yeah. Yes, I think we are to a point.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping a lot of people do lots of things very quickly. I mean, in Ukraine, for example, through Electronics Weekly, we covered the use of drones, and that development has really popped on, losing lots of different technologies. In periods of conflict, you find technologies driven much more quickly than it would otherwise be. So we're seeing breakthroughs in areas that need to have things happen quickly, and AI is being used as a bit of a shortcut, with clever people designing breakthrough technologies for a fraction of the price they would do otherwise. So I reckon it's going to transform all the areas you don't want transforming, like security, espionage, warfare, fighting.
I think the ethics, it has to, like, that's the area.
Correct.
That I think a lot of employment is going to come into the ethics. For example, they're not going to replace Clive Coudwell with an AI bot writing AV magazine.
You haven't seen the latest, have you?
No, I haven't.
Well, I don't know. Let's face it, you can improve the body. You can improve the body, can't you? It's what comes out of the mouth that's the important bit.
That's it. Now,
I don't know.
Now, the AV Awards, now, next week, I can't believe, and I'm really looking forward to the AV Awards. Again, I haven't been over to the AV Awards since 2019, so I really am looking forward to getting
right, okay.
The last time I was over was when we were in the old London Hotel, now changed to the Evolution, and I'll never let down Mike Blackman, and he knows this. I never let him down for when ISE was in London, and they had an Irish bar which they called Evolution, and I thought that was the most
really. Oh,
yes. And this Irish bar didn't have any Irish drinks in it either, so that's where I never let him down on that.
Oh dear.
Yes. But to all your years of the AV Awards, now in a new place, the Evolution in Battersea.
Yeah.
Again, you outgrew the previous venue.
Well, we outgrew the previous venue, but because hotels didn't move as quickly as we would have liked them to.
Yeah.
Things that functioned that we wanted to take for granted, like new tech and everything else, and being able to do things, just didn't materialize within the hotels. They just kept they serve great food and they do what hotels do, which is put select groups of nice people together on tables and make the evening's entertainment and meal wonderful, which it was. But audio was a nightmare. Trying to put these behind a pillar here and a pillar. The buildings themselves weren't designed for that sort of stuff. Any kind of extra technical stuff would cost a fortune. So inevitably, you go to venues which are tailor-made for it. I mean, Evolution isn't the easiest of places either to get audio around and various other things, and it's a massive, massive space. So you have to have a really strong think about what you're doing, where you put people, the table plan, how if you're doing a major sensation, spectacular, how that evolves as you're walking in. There's a bit of psychology behind. We need to improve still at the opening of it, which is a bit dull and boring, coming through a couple of stairs, and it's a bit bland before you come in, But there's not a million things we can do with that, but we can make the inside bit of it slightly more demanding without it being overbearing. You have too much in there. It's very difficult. So there's not a lot of psychology going in. It's also flipping expensive. We might get sponsored with equipment, but you've still got to pay the installation of every other ancillary cost, which actually runs into many thousands, which we've got to come up with.
For a better word, it is a gigantic tent. So
it is.
Yeah. So to actually give good acoustics and good AV for a night that is globally known as the awards for AV. You want to have it spectacular, and it always is, but I'm really looking forward to comparing it from the Grosvenor Hotel.
It's got to be commensurate with someone like me, he was a very important person.
Of
I
course.
just don't go into any venue. It's got to be spectacular and show me off to my best to the best effect.
Of course.
I can't be going into any kind of venue with full of riffraff. It's got to be top level stuff with
That's why
great
I don't
people
know why they're
inside it.
letting me in. I'm the biggest Irish troublemaker that you've ever come across.
Oh well,
Clive,
don't, I wouldn't. I don't think you are actually. But I mean, the biggest difficulty is me getting to my black tie. Getting into a suit that I haven't changed. I'm told I should be in a tuxedo, a double-breasted tuxedo, the number, which I'm afraid is slightly more expensive than I'm able to pay at the moment. So I could be
Right.
sponsored for that.
Yes,
But
you could.
something that's more,
You,
complimentary
you
that
could. You
covers
could.
my
You could
portly
wear.
frame.
You could wear all the logos on the back of your of your tux, maybe. Yeah.
What would my agent say? I'm certainly not.
No.
Goodness me. I have my standards. I occasionally say yes to the occasional brown envelope, but we won't
Of
talk.
course.
We won't talk about that.
Yes. Now, interesting, and something that you sort of crept in under the radar, I believe, is that AV Awards in London, in England, going for the past 27 years, and now you're trying on a different continent and going over to America.
Well, it's not a new idea. We've been going for a few years actually. It's a very complex process, and it's catering for an American audience, and they cater for the majority of our readers. Actually, it might
Yes.
be seen as a UK magazine, but we're a global brand,
Hmm.
um, and. But America works differently when it comes to events and award ceremonies. It's you working East versus West Coast. They don't do a lot of black tie dues. So, and you're having to think, the wholly different judging fraternity. The Americans like awards. Everybody likes to be a winner.
Yes.
We're Brits. Like I went to when I went to just a slight aside, Infocom this past year to Orlando. I met by this lovely lady who was called Director of Happiness.
Oh, I like that. Is
Yes,
that
she
an
just
official
retired.
title?
But I'm terribly sorry, but I'm British. We don't do happy. And you know me, I keep saying this. I arrive in America, like George III and the Prince Regent rolled into one.
Where is my proper tea? Because
Absolutely.
they can't do tea, and that's why I
Well,
brought over the
it's
Irish tea bag.
it's you infuse the herb, madam. You infuse the herb.
Yes.
And I arrived there with a full panoply of empire behind me. So I said this, that, and the other. I said, well, yes, but no one. The difference between failing and being a failure. I said, you may not win. Oh, I can't be doing that. We've got to have a second or third, or we've got to have a trophy of some kind. I said, well, that dilutes the winning trophy, doesn't it? So there will be an element of disappointment. You need to. It's tackling all this. I do it with a bit of humour, but it's a completely different mindset between how they like this, that, and the other. So you have to get round all these things. But we're doing for 4 or 5 years actually, on and off, and it's a question of how you package and what you can do practically. So it's been quite a long process that we just
Of
haven't talked
research, yeah,
about. We've
yeah.
decided now to go for.
And so, can you let us in with a couple of exclusive podcast secrets? Where is it going to be? What stage are you going to hold
But
the AV Awards?
the final bit of it hasn't. Well, we have decided. We're still discussing it. The process has started. Entries are coming in, and we've got a fantastic entry pad. I haven't been involved in all of it because I'm such a busy person.
Of
Of
course.
course, you can't expect someone important as I am to be involved in everything, can you?
And delegation is crucial.
Oh,
Yes.
it is. It takes me a long time to sit on the throne, let alone delegate.
Mhm.
So it's important to put everything in perspective. And, they're very good. We have very talented people who are far more talented than I, should I say,
Mhm.
making all the important decisions. And a bit like being the sauce chef. You don't do much work, but you know that little essential element that makes it successful,
So
This is how I talk to my wife before I get a battering with a frying pan.
it sounds very familiar, Clive, to myself and Jen. Yes, it's either she walks out of the room or I'm going to get something
Yes.
thrown at me. But, with that in mind, then, are you going to, or will you be able to travel over to these AV Awards when it happens?
I'm not going to Infocom Vegas. I went around it last time because I had a heart thing going on. I went around the sphere in a wheelchair, so it wasn't
Yes.
great. But they were wonderful with me. We had a bet actually. It's
Right.
a better tour with a journalist. There's old fatty there in a wheelchair. I got a fantastic chauffeur who wheeled me around. We had a better tour with me in the wheelchair than we would have had I been able-bodied. But of course, things like they were doubling the size of the whole thing. That electric cars in between halls, and just
Yes.
getting from one point to another. It's a taxi ride. I
Yeah.
just can't cope with the scale of that anymore. And
Yeah.
which is why I preferred Orlando. But it's just getting on the plane, blood pressure, God knows what else. But mobility, especially, I get tired very easily.
So
Some
you're
may
going to
say it's
leave.
because I talk too much.
Well, are you going to leave that up to some other members of the team to
Don't
be
know
the?
yet.
Yes,
Don't
you
know
don't know.
yet.
And
I may be a hologram. Who knows?
oh yes, well, there's enough technology out there to do that, and
Oh,
and
beat me
like that,
down.
Clive, you'd be allowed to
Well,
pick and
Mike's
choose what you look like.
well, Mike's done it before, and I think Mike's been a hologram, hasn't he? In IC, if
Yes,
he
he
can do it,
has.
I could
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, of course, yeah, and you could do it. You could do it better, of course. You have the
Well, he
contact.
looks far better in a suit than I do. I mean, he's got the gear, hasn't he? I
Well,
might.
do you know what? I've never actually seen Mike Blackman in casual clothing. So,
No,
yeah, and like,
I'm sure he gets sponsored. I'm sure there's something going on there where he's a mannequin for somebody. I wish I
exactly.
had his access to nice, thick, very smart clothes, and they're always stylish, aren't they? But
They
he's got a body where you can wear that sort of thing. You can't do much with an exploding mattress. It's you'd have to have an AI in the suit that change shape every time you put it on.
That's very true. Now, with that in mind, like I think you might have given away a little hint secret. Is the AV Awards in America going to go from East Coast to West Coast?
I don't know. I think
You
we're
don't
looking at
know.
the.
Okay, fair enough.
I think we're looking at potentially Vegas at the moment, but we'll
Okay.
have to see.
Yes, yeah.
It'll be a virtual event, but there will be something more physical as the major event itself. What form that takes, I don't know. There are a
Well,
number of solutions we can pursue at the moment. It's down
yeah,
to ability to do it, cost, and everything else, really, and
yeah,
really what the market wants.
yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be a relative learning exercise for most people, which is why people haven't done it before now. I mean, if the Americans thought it was a great idea, why haven't they done it?
Yeah, well, this is it. Like when I seen it the first time there, when I was just finalizing bits and pieces for next week for the AV Awards, I was like, oh, interesting, and sort of like, well, the AV Awards was done virtually during lockdown and COVID, but you still think there's room to just do two separate awards, one for America and one
Well,
for
I think so because it gives you the freedom to do something a bit different and
yes,
explore a different angle onto them. And the problem we've got with the awards is we've got 29 categories. Now then, you're trying to make them relevant to the market, but it's a long night.
it is.
I read the script yesterday, added various bits to it. Another obituary from someone who's well known will have to read out. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot to say in a short space of time that gives a bit of respect to people you're referring to,
Mhm.
gives respect to people who put in the awards, and also gives people a nice night out. It's a great entertainment evening. And all those elements have to be kept in balance. It's quite a challenge, really. And actually getting into the psyche of the average American going to an event and fulfilling their expectations is a learning exercise, shall we
And
say.
this is why it's taking you 5+ years to finally come up with it.
Well, I don't think they'd like the idea of me as George III in ermine and crown walking through the door would not be a great idea. I mean, the sort of joke I have about Trump, I say, well, Mr. President, when he did last time we did towers, it didn't end well, did it?
Or
Oh,
hold on,
Clive, I'm glad you mentioned that.
are
Yes,
you waiting? Are you waiting for the ballroom of the White House to be built so
the
then you can
ballroom the ballroom or the nuclear bunker. I think
have?
you're not telling me you're spending 250 million on a ballroom. There's something more in there than ballroom, isn't there? It's what I would like to see what's underneath the ballroom. Let me put it that way.
Yes, that's very true. But like a great venue for the AV Awards in the future, perhaps.
I think you would, but yeah, Donald always muscles into other people's events, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, like,
I mean,
well, well, don't forget, like, he has the what is it, the Club World Cup trophy, and he claims it is the
yes,
authentic one, not a replica in the
of
White
course.
House. But yeah, so there you go. So
Well, he won't know if I'm a replica or a real one either, will he? I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah.
depends.
Well,
Depends
maybe.
which version of me turns up.
Well, maybe like when you have the AV Awards in America, you can send him one and tell him it's the real deal. Especially when all Americans want an award.
We can call it the Don and Clive show, or the Clive and Don show,
Well,
perhaps.
since he
Yeah, I'm
has
far more important than he is.
a broadcast and TV and film background, maybe he'd be a great MC for the night.
Oh, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
But would it be the real Donald Trump? That's the thing.
That's it. Okay. Yes, there we go. There's plenty of ways to skin this cat. Where do you think the future of AV is going? Apart from you go, well, I have to think of retirement at some stage, Justin. But where do you see the future?
Oh, God knows. I really don't know. I mean, we have. I love it, Meg, but we are two countries separated by a common language, aren't we?
Yes.
So we sort of get together lots of things. We love each other, really, and we have a bit of a banter going. Our humour is much more cynical than theirs, which is much more slapstick. They just don't get British humour. But I love the technology developments. We seem to be happening more over in the US, I think, and far things. So I think how technology develops, watch your audio companies. I think they've done a great deal of advanced work, and they're really ahead of their game, I think. I'd like to see meeting, workspace or workplace areas much more sophisticated, affordable, adaptable, interoperable. All the things that the IT industry has been through, but in a way it doesn't damage the AV industry, but celebrates its excellence and what we know and love in the AV world. I wouldn't want it diluted and merged into other areas, because I feel the skills and the technology it's developed and has to offer to a wider world make it more strategic than ever. But like all these things, when they're being developed, they tend to be consumed into other areas, depending on who's doing the technology. There'll be a lot of takeovers in the offing, I suspect.
Well, that's what I had the conversation on the couch with Tim Albright, and say it felt that at IBC you felt that broadcasting was merging with AV. AV is merging with IT. So eventually, are we going to call the broadcaster the IT guy? No.
There's no merging of broadcast and AV going on. There'll be exploration into each other's markets. I think that will be as far as it goes. But the professional, that we can get something from their professional skill sets, which will be adaptive for the AV world. And I think, lots of broadcast technologies, once you see broadcast servers in big server rooms, as they are going into the banks now, then you'll start to see certain big overlaps going on, because they'll follow the money.
Yes, they will. Of course they will. Clive, it's been great talking to you. Really looking forward to the AV Awards next week. I know every year you go, okay, God, this is the last year I'm doing this AV Awards. I don't like the crowds, but you still come.
I know. I am growing to a miserable old man, actually, I must admit. I do like seeing people, but my voice goes, I'm not great in loud environments.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty quiet talker. Of course, I can't hear as well as I did. I mean, I'm due for the knackers yard, quite frankly. So all these big things, I talk to a lot of people, and it's quite a challenge, and it's tiring.
Being royalty and talking to everyone,
I need a doppelganger. I need someone who can actually look like me. I need another.
Well, Clive,
Putin has about 6 or 7 people, doesn't he?
I could easily dye the hair grey.
Yeah, but you need to be much fatter, Justin. You need to do the body justice.
Well, you know what? Like having a pretty much a desk job as well. Like I'm not losing weight, and if I keep on going over to trade shows in America, I am going to end up putting on the weight as well. But hopefully I can keep myself fit somewhat with having 2 young kids as well. But Clive, great to talk to you as always, and I shall see you next Thursday as well.
What a great show, linking up with Clive and discussing all things tech and AV related. And what a background he's had in AV. Love that guy, very humble on things. As you say, some people don't get his British humour. I get his British humour. I don't know how he puts up with me, but there you go. Maybe I'm the younger one of him. Thank you for tuning in to All Things TechIE Podcast, episode 130. For more, visit our website, www.allthingstech.ie, and talk to you soon. Goodbye.